Time for the best bet gauntlet, JT, and time to update the folks on how this year has gone for us overall. A fantastic year continues along. We got out of our week in London with a 5-5 week as a show. I went 2-3, a very frustrating 2-3, I might add. I was 2 missed field goals inside of 45 yards away from going 4-1, which is infuriating, but 2-3 nonetheless. JT, you eked out a 3-2 winning week again. Your reign of the hot hands, plural, it's a double hot hand at this point, continues along the tracks. As a show, we are at 66% on the year, which is ultimately what we care about, and ultimately a fantastic number to have through 6 weeks and through 60 total bets. 35-25 on the year, making a lot of money for those that are betting along with us. I am 14-16 with some work to do this week. You are an unbelievable 21-9. Keep it up, my friend. The ball is still in my court. I still have the first pick, and I am really excited that I had the first pick this week because I love my first pick. The week 7 best bet gauntlet, my first pick is going to be Tampa Bay -2.5 hosting the Atlanta Falcons. Some numbers and reasoning on this one. This is a big bounce back spot for a Tampa Bay team. A lot of yards and points left out there on the field by Baker Mayfield. Some deep passes that were there for the completing, and he under or overthrew them. But I love getting Tampa Bay under the field goal here, again, at home. They are statistically better than Atlanta in every category this season in terms of rush yards, passing yards, run defense, passing defense, sack rate, pressure rate. I went through the whole gamut. They are simply the better team right now. I love this bounce back spot after being brought down back to earth last week. And Atlanta is a bottom 5 DVOA defense. I think that Tampa Bay is going to have a much, much better time this week against this Atlanta defense than they did against Detroit. Give me Tampa Bay to win by a field goal or more.
With my first pick, I'm taking the Los Angeles Chargers headed into Arrowhead against Kansas City plus 5.5. Here's why a little bit. It comes down to Justin Herbert, who has been really good against the spread against this Kansas City team. This will be the 7th career game versus the Chiefs, 6th career game against Mahomes. Versus Kansas City, he may only be 2-4 straight up, but is 5-1 against the spread against Kansas City. And then when he plays Mahomes, only 1-4 straight up, but 4-1 against the spread. When Herbert is a dog of 5 or more, like he is in this matchup, currently 5.5, he is 7-0 against the spread. So in these games where he is playing the Kansas City Chiefs, he plays them close. These two teams always play really, really close, I feel like, no matter where it is. Mahomes versus the AFC West is only 16-14-1 against the spread, so I'm expecting a very close game, so that's why I'm taking the Chargers plus 5.5 this week.
My next bet is, it really is gross, and I don't expect any of our listeners to tail me on this one, although they should. I'm gonna try my best to sell you on it, but boy, oh boy, is it gross. We talked last week a lot, JT, about catching the falling knife. In betting, when that knife is dropping and a team is seemingly free falling, the best bettors in the world, the pros, the ones that make bank, they catch that falling knife at the right time, at the last minute, by the handle and not the blade, and avoid getting cut. Nonetheless, they barely don't cover last week for me, and I get cut by the falling knife. This week, I've got to do it. I've got to take New England getting 9 points at home, 9-point home dogs against the Buffalo Bills. Number one, it's a pros Joe's game. Okay. Only 30% of the bets on New England, but 64% of the money, the big money bettors, are on this New England team, a 34% differential there. It's in Foxborough, so there's going to be that element of Foxborough magic. This is, by the way, JT, it is the largest spread as a dog that Bill Belichick has ever had at home since Tom Brady's first game all those years ago. So this is kind of some new territory for this New England team. Buffalo, for their part, injury-wise, we've talked about it, JT. This Buffalo team got murdered by the turf in London, and maybe the buried lead from the Titans-Ravens game is that nobody died, which was what we were expecting to happen. It didn't happen. It did happen for the Bills, though. They've lost 3 massive defensive starters for the entire year. 3 of New England's losses this year, by the way, just from a statistical standpoint. 3 of their losses this season have been by less than 1 possession. I think the Pats are going to be able to run in this game. Again, the number is too big. Give me Buffalo to win by probably a touchdown, but I think that 9 is simply too big. I'll take New England plus the 9 points.
I was looking up the Steelers and how good Mike Tomlin is,
Mike Tomlin,
especially as an underdog here. I was getting my ducks in a row because, listen, I think the Steelers are in a really nice spot this week. 56-31-4 all time against the spread as an underdog under Mike Tomlin. He's 45-20-2 against the spread as an underdog from week 5 forward, including 37-30 straight up on the money line. So as the season progresses, this team gets a lot feistier down the stretch here. They get a little hotter. Of course, Mike Tomlin has never finished under 500 as the head coach of the Pittsburgh Steelers. So this team continues to get better as the year progresses, and especially they're coming off the bye, which I think is the most interesting part about this. Have they been bad coming off the bye against the spread? Yes, they are 10-11 all time against the spread with extended rest. However, this is the 4th time the Steelers will play off a bye under Tomlin, where their offense is averaging 20 points per game or less. In the 3 games before this one, they are 3-0, both straight up and against the spread, coming off the bye in that spot. Off extended rest as well during the regular season, Kenny Pickett is a perfect 4-0 straight up and against the spread in his pro career, covering the spread by 7.3 points per game. I'm expecting a bounce back spot here for the Pittsburgh Steelers. They get Deontay Johnson back. That defense gets a little bit of a rest here. And I'm expecting them, despite Cooper Kupp maybe having the game of his lifetime, which it seems like he's getting hyped up to have, I'm expecting a big time game.
For my 3rd pick of the week 7 best bet gauntlet, I'm taking Philly, giving 2.5 points against Miami at home, a home favorite of under a field goal. This is all about picking the right spot to fade the Miami Dolphins. Okay. Miami has been a juggernaut this year. They have been the best show on turf. Okay. They are so much fun to watch. Nobody is discounting that. However, I really like this spot for Philadelphia for a couple of reasons. They got pressure on Tua, who has been incredibly clean this season, right? He's 35 pressures allowed by the Miami Dolphins through 6 games. League best by a pretty significant margin. Tua's been so clean. When he's given time to operate, he's been surgical. When he's not given time to operate, you see some of the warts come out. And this Philadelphia team defensively up front, that's where the strength of their defense is. Their secondary, there's some issues there. I think that the Miami secondary or the Miami receivers are going to give that Philly secondary some issues if the defensive line does not get home. But I think that they will. I think that this Miami offensive line is not great on paper. They're due for some regression. I think this is one of those games where Tua is under a lot of pressure. It's supposed to be a 40-degree day, cold, wet, and windy in Philadelphia. So I'm betting on the bounce back spot for Philly, who was handed their first loss of the season last week, fading the early season hype in Miami. And one last thing, Jalen Hurts has not been very good under pressure this year, statistically. But the Dolphins have not defensively been able to bring pressure against anybody, really. So I think that he's going to be clean in this game. I think that the Philadelphia offense can absolutely hang with the Miami offense in a boat race or in a fireworks show. So give me Philly to win by a field goal or more at home.
My next pick here, this is my falling knife of the week, I think, that I'm trying to catch here. And I'm going to go with the New York Giants plus 2.5 versus the Washington Commanders here. A couple of reasons why. Ron Rivera versus the Giants all time has just not been a very profitable coach. He's actually going up against the team that he's least profitable against the spread at. He's 3-7 all time, 1-7 against the Giants against the spread as a favorite, and then 2-4 against the spread versus the Giants with Washington. So a couple of those come from Carolina, but either way, he does not play this team very well. Also, Ron Rivera is a much better coach as an underdog than he is a favorite. 59-43-2 against the spread as an underdog, but only 47-51-2 against the spread as a favorite with Washington and Carolina. And the Giants have historically covered against Washington. Last 20 years, they are 24-15-1 against the spread, including 2-7 in their last 9 meetings. Dable is also 2-0 against the spread for New York against the Washington Commanders. Listen, I think Tyrod Taylor is doing a fine job for them if he continues to fill in there for Daniel Jones. But either way, I think, once again, this is a roller coaster season for the Commanders. They lose pretty badly, then come back last week against Atlanta and get a pretty decisive win. Now they're going into MetLife to play a Giants team who really is just lacking an identity and could really use a win right now, especially with the kind of relationship between the Giants and their fan base. So as a team that is pretty profitable right now against the Washington Commanders, I like the value, so I'm going to take the Giants plus 2.5 as a home dog.
My fourth pick of the Week 7 Best Bet Gauntlet. Give me Denver +1 at home against Green Bay. JT, when I saw this line, I said, this line stinks. I mean, it stinks. Something smells with this line. And then I got into some of the numbers. And this Denver team as a home dog, we love home dogs. Betting home dogs is profitable all the time. This Denver team we're worried about the full-blown tank mode, right? That's the concern. But assuming they're still trying to win, I think that they are at this point. I think that they are capable of beating what is a inflated Green Bay team, in my opinion. First of all, it's a pros Joe's game. Okay. We've got, 39% of the bets on the Broncos, but 61% of the money, the big money bettors, 22% differential in the Broncos' favor. And I just think that this Green Bay team is not as good as they're made out to be. I think that Denver wins at home in a gritty, gross game by 2-3 points, a field goal. I think that Denver wins this game outright as a home dog. Give me Denver +1.
With my next pick here, and look, the thing you got to do this week, you got to fade Kirk Cousins in prime time. Like, it's almost an automatic
prime time spot.
It feels like at night. At night, he is 11-19 straight up, 12-18 against the spread, 4-3 straight up in primetime starts since last season. Against the spread is the main issue, though. 1-6 against the spread in those last 7 games. In his career, though, on Monday Night Football, Cousins has straight up stunk. He is 2-10 straight up and against the spread on Monday Night Football. His 2-10 straight up mark is worst of any quarterback on Monday Night Football. Listen, right now you can get this on some books under the touchdown -6.5. Despite Kyle Shanahan's woes on primetime games, I do think that this San Francisco team is the better team. They're coming off a pretty embarrassing loss to PJ Walker and the Cleveland Browns last week. So I'm expecting that firework offense to get right back to it this week. So give me San Fran -6.5.
I like this pick. I want to, and maybe you disagree, so tell me if you do. I want to stipulate that I think it's important to get this one under the touchdown because there are some books where you get it at 7.5. I really don't love that bet. I don't love San Fran to win by 10, for example. But if you can get under the touchdown, which you can right now, you got to take that bet. I have it under a touchdown at 6.5, and then there's also some books that have offered it at +7. But with plus money, like at +100. So I sprinkled a little bit on that. I take that value absolutely
as well. But if you can get it -6.5, I'd do that. Or -7 is what I meant. Yes.
Right. There you go. Yeah. Just as long as it's without the hook, trying to cover that 7.5. With my last bet, I'm taking Baltimore -3. They are hosting the Detroit Lions. And I have a couple of reasons why I really, really like this bet. Detroit hasn't really beaten anybody of note this year. If you look back at who they've beaten, okay, time to fade them because they've beaten Atlanta with Desmond Ridder, Green Bay with Jordan Love, Carolina, and Tampa Bay with Baker Mayfield, who was really easily his worst game of the season when they played him. It's a big opportunity for the Ravens here. I think that their defense, the Detroit defense, that is vulnerable to the pass, and I think it's time for the Ravens passing game to be able to shine a little bit in this game. You're getting outdoor Jared Goff, who's 33-31 against the spread with some wind and weather conditions to contend with. 16-mile-per-hour winds projected for this game, the windiest game of the week. Running back situation, like the Detroit offense really operates through the run a lot. Their identity kind of that's cornerstone for them. It's not existent right now, so I don't know what they're going to do. And then just statistically, trends wise, Lamar 18-4 ATS as a dog or a favorite of under 3, 12-1 ATS in his career against teams with a winning record against the spread. I love this Baltimore bet, but JT, apparently you do not, because this is our head-to-head pick of the week.
Yeah, so I'm going against you on this one, not because I'm with you. I think the hype is way too real for this Detroit team. So I'm not saying they're going to win. However, I just don't. I got to take the points here, and here's why.
Okay.
The Lions are 28-12 against the spread, which is good for 70% since the start of the 2021 season. They're the most profitable team against the spread in the NFL. Dating back to last season as well, Jared Goff, you said, wasn't a great outdoor quarterback, and I agree with you. But Jared Goff has covered 7 straight games versus teams above 500 straight up in his past 7. And then since that spot in 2021, he's 12-3 against the spread against teams above or at 500. It's the best mark in the NFL. And then Lamar Jackson has also not been great against the spread versus NFC teams specifically. In 16 games, and this is why I think that the Ravens are still going to win this game. He's 15-1 straight up against NFC teams in his last 16 games. However, he's 7-9 against the spread in those games. So like you said, I love the Ravens. I think this is a good spot to take the Ravens this week if you're looking for the money line. However, with those stats, I just had to take the points because I think it's going to be a closer game than people think. And I'm just going to ride with Jared Goff this week.